All right, thank you very much. Hey, I just want to say, from sea to sea, from planet to planet, and star to shining star, it's a strange universe, and we just work here. I want to say thank you again to JP, who's just been a hero throughout this entire thing, and I appreciate him a lot. Just some things right off the bat, a little housekeeping here. Just want everybody to know that they can actually, they can text me from their phone now. 971-260-9726 is my number if you want to text me, 971-260-9726. It's a service, which is called textinmate.com, 971-260-9726. And I want to give a shout-out to Lady Antonia Leslie in Ireland and Peter in Bulgaria. If you remember, we used to work at Revolution Radio a long time ago. And so they text me. And unfortunately, people from outside the country, I can't text you back, but I do get your messages. I do get your messages here. And I've been trying to enter my friend Sydney's email in, so Sydney should check his correlates. And I also want to give a shout out to my friend Doug McCormick, who's got a farm in Kentucky, and he knows that I'm a big fan of the Russian Anastasia books. Anastasia is a beautiful Siberian mystic, and Vladimir Migray met her some time ago. These books have been read by 50 million people around the world. They were only translated into English in 2005. And Doug is talking about turning his farming in Kentucky into a domain of kin, as Anastasia calls it, or literally putting living spaces together that are designed in a certain way to have living fences and Siberian cedars and various bushes around the property. So that might be a project that I'm going to do when I get out of here. Also, one of the things that, along with buying the rights to things like the Anastasia books for movies and books like The Search for Omseti and all that, the one thing I want to set up is Project Jubilee. And today, some of the interesting things on the news have been that I've been concerned about for a long time is student loan debt has now hit $1.7 trillion. Along with a story right next to it, by the way, of supposedly 2 million people all talking about storming the gates out at Area 51. I mean, this is all, if you got my blog on alternativerealitydisorder.com, you'll see this is something I kind of started and put in the national news and put people out front of it like Bob Lazar and George Knapp and Nori Hayakawa and Gary Schultz and Anthony Hilder, and I'm not even sure if those guys are around anymore, but this was all 30 years ago. And, although nothing is at Area 51, part of the things that I didn't add to my Area 51 Chronicles, if you want to check the StrangeUniverseRadio.com website or AlternativeRealityDisorder.com, is, I think one of the biggest disclosure books ever written have been my Sands of Time books, and the journals that I was given by a top-level Black Ops government administrator scientist, Ted Humphrey, back in 2009, and those books are what got me thrown in jail. No kidding. I mean, I'm sitting in prison now because of the information that was revealed in those books, and as soon as I get out of here, you'll be able to buy them again. What else is going on? I just wanted to let people know that my appeal is still pending. It's taken so long because I never got discovery.
This call is from a federal prison.
During my trial, I asked for discovery over and over and over again. I was ignored by the judge and ignored by the prosecution, so I never got discovery. It wasn't until I was actually in prison for 8 months that they actually gave me discovery in my trial. I submitted 6 motions to the Ninth Circuit Court, which they rejected, and then got sent to the Supreme Court. So I actually then filed my appeal back in May. The final response to the Demon's response to my appeal is due next Wednesday on September 4th. And at the same time, I've put in a motion for compassionate release under the new Trump First Step Act, which the Bureau of Prisons is completely ignoring, by the way. The DOJ is just laughing in Trump's face. They let 3,500 people go out of a system of about 184,000, I think it is. They let 3,500 people go, and of those 3,500 people, 1,500 of them were released directly to ICE, which is our enforcement and immigration control here, and deported back to their own countries to serve prison sentences back in wherever it is they came from. So they only let 2,000 people go. So in my case, because I'm now eligible for, as an elderly inmate of all things, it reduces my sentence to 66%, and then 10% of good time, and then 5% for working and whatever else now reduces the sentence to 51%. So that brings it down to 36 months. and I've already served 25, actually. And so anyway, so my hearing for compassionate release is before Judge Stephen V. Wilson in the Los Angeles District Court on November 19th, and I'm fully expecting that they'll probably let me go for Christmas and or for Thanksgiving. And then I've got my appeal, which I believe I'll win hands down. Okay, that's my personal stuff for everybody. All right. Obviously, the rock and rolling thing is everybody storming Area 51. It's really a shame because it got started as a joke and then just became this gigantic meme and this huge deal, and had people like the frontman for Blink-182, who has the Star Academy, I think it is. I'm not quite sure. I think that's what it is. But had people gotten out in front of this, they could have turned it into an event as big, if not bigger, than Woodstock on the other side of the valley at Area 51 along the extraterrestrial highway of Highway 375. There's a beautiful valley called the Tikaboo Valley, and all they would have had to have done is talk to Steve Medlin there, and we could have thrown a concert or something, because people are going to go there, and we could have a safe and sane way to do it. Maybe do fireworks or have some kind of mass protest using music and speakers, and put yourself a little convention together. So, I mean, I should have been the lead speaker at these alien cons that are now moving across the country, but obviously I'm sitting in here, so I have to see a lot of the jokers on the speakers list, there. And of course on Friday we've got Ancient Aliens Day, and I was on Ancient Aliens today talking about my interviews with Gordon Cooper and Edgar Mitchell and the astronauts that I knew. Okay, here's some interesting future stuff that I'm just looking at. As far as the stock market goes, I actually emailed many of my friends and said, you got to double up on the market, that this is just a bounce based on the trade fears, and that my picks for stocks were things like Disney, which has rebounded by 5%. Roku is going to be the big one. Roku's selling for about $145 now, but I think Roku is going to outstrip Netflix really quick, and I think Roku's the big stock that's probably going to go to $500 or $600. Also, Apple and Intel, everything that's reducing now. So let me give you the fall forecast for this. The USC Trojans are probably going to suck. We're probably going to lose the Fresno and Stanford first two games, which is really a shame. But the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, they spent $350 million revamping the whole thing, so that should be very interesting. But by Christmas, and and I could say October or whatever else, I believe that Trump will have a trade deal in place with the Chinese. I think the Chinese are going to buckle. I think they're going to come to some sort of agreement. All this nonsense about a recession that's been ballyhooed by the media is just a complete joke. I think we come up with a trade deal with China. I think that rockets the stock market, so everybody's got a chance to buy into the market now while it's low in the 2,500 range or so. There's that. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is going to die. The notorious RGB is finally going to die. My mother had the same disease that she had. Now, at the same time, I do not believe that my mother died from pancreatic cancer. I believe that the executors of her estate, it is my personal belief, and I allege that Dr. William Toy and Jerry Roberts and Tom Gillespie, my half-uncle, along with, a lot of people, conspired to pour a bottle of morphine down my mother's throat and actually have her killed. This is after they hopped her up on hallucinogenic drugs to be able to screw me out of a $12 million estate and basically make off with the whole thing. But Ruth Bader Ginsburg is going to die. When she dies, it is going to cause a rupture in you thought the Brett Kavanaugh hearing was crazy. Brett Kavanaugh, the two real traitors on the Supreme Court are John Roberts and Brett Kavanaugh. There's not a dime's worth of difference between Merrick Garland, who was Obama's nominee, and Brett Kavanaugh. Brett Kavanaugh only voted differently from Garland twice. So the whole big, brouhaha and that ridiculous nonsense by the liberals was basically just to really get Brett Kavanaugh on the court. I think, and I should have done more research on this before I got on the phone, but I think the person that Trump is going to pick, it's on his short list. I mean, I was hoping, out of the blue, I was hoping that Trump would pick somebody like Judge Jeanine Pirro, on Judge Jeanine on Fox, or maybe Judge Andrew Napolitano. I think that would just send people into orbit, and I think, the greatest really rabid constitutional picks ever. But it's a Catholic woman. She's got 7 kids. She's got a great record. He's going to be replacing a woman with a woman. I am not exactly sure what they can come up with as far as her, other than, you're anti-abortion because you have a lot of children. But this is it's going to cause a massive political rupture, and you're going to see riots in the streets and massive protests in Washington, D.C. when that happens. So the economy is going to pick up. I think the stock market's probably, I won't say by Christmas, but by spring, is finally going to hit my my leveling point of 28,000. And I predicted this, gosh, when I was on Revolution Radio some years ago. We kept talking about 28,000 being the high, and I've never been wrong about this stuff. I mean, over the course of my doing this for 30 years, back when Art Bell was saying I'm crazy because I said the market would go to 5,000, then 8,000, then 10,000, then 12,000, then 20,000, then 25,000, and now 28,000 or so. So that's kind of a big deal. Also, I'm very worried about still California. I mean, Gavin Newsom. People need to make gigantic banners, and they need to hang them over these homeless camps on the streets of places like Los Angeles and San Francisco that say, Gavin Newsom, Eric Garcetti, this is your fault. Somebody needs to start the "this is your fault" movement to start blaming these Democratic politicians for what's happening there. You've literally you're on the edge of a bubonic plague. You're on the edge of a typhus outbreak. You've got so many rats. I mean, I was thinking kind of a joke program should be is that Cats for the Homeless, that we should actually just round up any stray cats and start giving them to homeless people in tents to be able to keep the rat population down. But the fact that Los Angeles and San Francisco are two of the wealthiest cities with the most disparity between the rich and the poor. I mean, you can't, in LA County as an example, only 27% of people can afford to buy a home. In Orange County, it's ridiculous. Only 15% of people can afford to buy a home in Orange County, which means that there's people that are actually working pretty decent jobs that are homeless. I might add Melissa as well. She's completely indigent. She's sleeping on the floors of friends of mine. She's disabled, basically. Holy crap! There's a Native American Indian guy that just shaved his head in here. It's really weird. He's still got his ponytail. He's got a shaved head. Oh my God, this is such a freak show, this place. And I'm hoping that Judge Stephen Wilson shows me some mercy out of this and actually starts to enforce the First Step Act. The First Step Act, and by the way, we've been told flat out by the wardeness, by the counselors, by the case managers of the BOP that we're not going to enforce this act, that it's a joke, and that we're not going to give you any relief whatsoever. And I've been threatened by the BOP just because I've been spreading information about the First Step Act, and they've accused me of things like, oh, you're charging money for helping people, which is ridiculous. Just because I let people look at my motion for compassionate release, which is now finally being heard. But they said we're not going to enforce it. Good luck with that. We're not going to enforce the law. You've got to go through the courts, and that's what I've done. So again, my hearing is set for November 19th. What else is going on in the world? I want to say hi to people like Constance Miller, who got back in touch with me. Hello to Marco, to people like Paul Lucero, who's working on some movie stuff, and they've optioned the Sands of Time books. The guys who win 12 Emmy Awards have actually optioned Sands of Time as a TV series. So you can tell Cliff High that for me. And right now I have a lot of free time in here, so I've been writing nonstop, although it's almost impossible because the BOP blinded me in my right eye. That's another reason for my compassionate release. I literally can't read for any extended period of time. I'm completely blind in my right eye. I literally feel like Odin, who's hung on the Yggdrasil tree.
This call is from a federal prison.
To get psychic knowledge, and has had a raven pluck out his eye or something. So, and the BOP did it to me, and it was from complete criminal neglect and dereliction, with me writing letters saying, and doctors writing letters saying that I needed a follow-up operation because they repaired some macular degeneration of my eye, and they wanted to remove a cataract and ruptured the capsule that actually holds the lens. So I'm physically blind in my right eye. The only good thing I can say is I'm losing weight. I think I'm down to 240 now or something when I was 306. I saw myself on Ancient Aliens today. I'm like, man, I was so fat. I was 310 pounds back then. So that's the good thing, is that I have a lot of time to just work out and read. I'm reading all the Anastasia books again as well, getting ideas from that. Working on the TV series for Sands of Time. Finally finishing up books like Vajra Chronicles. And I want to thank everybody like Mama Lil and Beth Boyer and Sue and Sherry and all the people that have supported me and helped me and sent me money and put money on my books for me to be able to get granola and all that. And also to you, Commander, to say thank you so much for being there and supporting me and posting all these messages. God bless you, JP, and I'll talk to you next week.
Good night, Sean.
All right, thanks, pal.